August 3rd, 2023, 9:30 a.m. Finance IT Committee. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Barons.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Bowers.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes.
Watts.
Here.
McTaggart.
Yes. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Move on to public comments. Hearing none, we'll go to Myron Munyon and the liability general insurance update.
Good morning. So we discussed at the last meeting, talking about limits of the buildings and what were your options. So we looked into it. For the admin center, I don't think there's any advantage of moving your coverage from replacement to functional. I don't think that's probably a very good option for you guys. I think you're better off leaving that where it's at. The historical society is what we've been talking about since we've done this. So we're insuring the historical society for what is it, 8 million on the building, but then on the contents inside it's 2.6. So we're protecting $10.6 million. It's costing you a little over $16,000. So I guess my question to you guys, I went in there yesterday and I went all through the building. I saw the papers and records, which keep in mind you have coverage for papers and records on your commercial policy. So that doesn't have to be in the contents. So I guess I would like to know what your thoughts are on the $2.6 million of contents inside there, keeping in mind that the Historical Society itself has a policy for $100,000 for their stuff, which is their computers and office stuff and cases and things like that. But to look around in there and see all of the stuff in there, I mean, I don't know how you would replace it. It's artifacts and stuff, so that's a discussion probably that you guys need to have, is what kind of value you want to put on that. The building itself at $8 million, my recommendation is if something happens to the building, I don't know how you would ever duplicate what's in there. It's kind of gonna be gone, so just food for thought. If you took it to actual cash value, you can lower that as low as 50% of value. So your actual cash value would be 50%, so your premium would follow. So let's say that we lowered down that contents for whatever, and we got it down around, let's take for a round number, $4 million we're protecting. So you'd be about half of that premium, so you'd only be about $8,000 instead of 16. So, yes.
You said 4 million for contents, but you meant 4 million for the building?
4 million for building, yes.
1 million for the contents?
Yeah, so whatever you guys decide on the contents, or whether you want to do it at all, is your decision, keeping in mind that the valuable papers and records are covered. And they are in a vault, and I saw it. So, but the building itself, the caveat to that is, you know, you're gonna have actual cash value. So now you're subject to depreciation, not replacement. So partial losses on the roof, they're gonna take into consideration the age, just like your home. So you're gonna be docked a little bit on your reimbursement for your claim. You know, so you're gonna assume some more responsibility, you know, on the financial part of the claim, unless it's a total loss, and then you guys can, you know, have your limit of 4 million or whatever you decide that you want it to be. 4 million is about 50%, so you know that's about probably as low as we could go. But any questions?
If we had a total loss, would there be any money paid out without us having to rebuild?
Yes, that's
How much would be paid out without us?
to the limits of the policy if it's a total loss.
And then we can do anything we want with that money.
That's correct. That's the beauty of the actual cash value. And I can't tell you what to do with your contents, you know, I don't even know how you would put a number on that or how you would duplicate it. So that's a discussion that you'll have to have.
So you said the actual cash value, the depreciation is just on like roofs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
The building itself doesn't necessarily depreciate in value?
It could, some of the stuff could, yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to pay, you know, a little bit more on the claims. It's partial claims is what you're looking at. You know, minus your deductible, obviously.
Right. Well, I mean, in the event of a total loss, we want enough to clean up the site and probably put some kind of a structure back, even though you said that we wouldn't have to.
Right, you would have whatever the limits that you decide on, what you would get in return.
Because an empty lot's not worth much.
A lot's worth some money.
Well,
So,
I agree.
okay, well, thank you. I think, unless I'm missing something or somebody else has another opinion, that the 2.6 million, I mean, if their documents are covered, and again, I don't even know what you
We're
do with
not
that
gonna-
money anyways, I mean,
If something happens to the documents, they're gone.
Right.
There's no
and I
getting
feel
them
like,
back,
as
so.
Myron said, that's pretty much everything that's there would fall into that category. If it's destroyed, it's kind of hard to bring it back. So I guess I would agree that having $2.6 million of coverage to replace things that are irreplaceable doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I would say we get rid of that for sure. And then the value, I personally, I've already said this 100 times, would go with, okay, $4 million, the 50%. We could get, God forbid that happens, you tear it down and then figure out what we're gonna do at that point, I guess. But there just isn't, that the idea of trying to rebuild it back to the 1800s or whatever standards seems.
but you
a little
couldn't do it
excessive.
anyway,
Seems
because of
excessive.
code.
Well, you couldn't probably do it anyways, yes, that's the other side of it.
You're saying eliminate the contents completely.
Is what I would do, because and Mitchell's on,
I'm
been involved.
the immediate past president of the Historical Society. We have our contents covered. We have that part of it covered. You guys have the building. And we understand that if it was to be completely destroyed, you rebuild it, it's not the same building. It's not gonna be a historical building. So having that policy, part of the policy is kind of redundant. I mean, it's ridiculous to do. So save the county some money and drop that. But we have put a lot of money in that building in the last couple of years. We've redone all the windows. We've got new parking lot. We've had a lot of tuck pointing done, new stone on the front steps and landscaping done. So, I mean, we are doing our best as stewards of the museum and the building. We have a 100-year lease, which is a little bit past half over, so we've crossed the 50-year mark. But we'd like to keep it for another 50 years. So we are taking care of it the best we can with the resources that we have. And last month I heard someone say that nobody goes there. Well, it's not like a supermarket where it's full of people all the time, but we've had, like last month, we had people from Grays Lake, Paris, France, Door County, Wisconsin, Indiana, Maryland, Iowa, San Antonio, Texas, Florida, California, Arizona, Tennessee, Nebraska, Ohio, Oregon, Grant Park, Manteno, Paxton, Wheaton, Downers Grove, and the surrounding area. So we get a lot of people interested. It's not just a Watsika museum, it's the county's museum. And I think we're doing a great job of displaying the history and showing what's important to the county. I feel it's the best kept secret in Iroquois County. So if you haven't been there to look at things, try to get in there and take a tour. There's always someone there who will help you show you around. And you'll get lost in some of the rooms. I get to the museum or the room for the military and I can't get out of there. I get to look at things and I'm there all day, so. But, yeah, as far as the insurance, we've got our contents covered and you guys take care of the records with your insurance. I don't know what else you can do.
How much would that $8,000 premium be reduced if we eliminated contents?
It would, well, so right now, the thought is you're at 10.6, not just 8, so you're at 10.6. So if you got rid of the contents, brought it down to 4,
Right.
so now you're half.
I thought
Yeah.
earlier I wrote down, maybe I wrote down wrong, but you said if you cut things in half, you
Right.
get $8,000.
Right.
So we're not only cutting in half, we're eliminating the contents, the
Right.
1.3 million content. So that should bring it down more, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
about how much more off the 8,000 if we eliminate content?
Well, if you're 8 million on the building, well, your 16,000 is covering the full amount. So if you got rid of that, so you'd be below the 5 million, so you'd be another million down. So you'd be, I'd have to figure out, ask him what that would be on
What
that,
we're saying is 4 million for the building,
right,
which is at 50%, and eliminate content.
right.
Then that should be less than the 8. thousand you
Yes.
just told us.
Yes, I can get that figure for you. That's an underwriting question, but I'm giving you round numbers of what we discussed with the guy yesterday.
And you can't always just divide it in half because you have the initial liability.
Right,
And usually when you start adding to it, it's not,
Right.
sometimes not that much to add more to it.
yeah, it has to go through underwriting to get the exact number. We're giving you like half of what you're protecting is gonna cost you about half of the premium, basically. But if a final number, once you make your decision what you wanna do, then we can come up with that premium, because they're working on your renewal now. So,
So we wanna do 4 million in coverage and drop the content.
That's what I would say.
I'll make
Unless
that
somebody's
motion.
got a better idea, that sounds good to me.
I'll make the motion to get the quote for that.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Okay, and I'll have that figure for you for next month's meeting.
very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susie had to leave, and she doesn't have the latest numbers yet.
No, she's still
on it.
working on numbers, but, the loss ratio has come down a bit, so she's pretty optimistic on making this a pretty fair renewal.
Okay. Okay, Bernie's not this month, so we go to department head reports. Kurt?
Tax bills are out, we're collecting right now, bringing over claims, another little problem we have, but, otherwise, everything's going pretty good so far, so. I got another employee in my office that started last week, and she's catching on pretty quick.
Very good.
Okay, so, just to remind everyone, petition circulation will begin on September 5th for, precinct committee person, county board, county officers, such as circuit clerk, state's attorney, and coroner, and then, also senators, representatives, that sort of thing. So we'll be having an election in March, so circulation will begin, and then filing will, take place in December of, this year. My chief deputy recorder is retiring, so I have hired Sarah Custer, who is also in the office, to start training for the position. We normally like to have like 2 months of training, but she's getting a month. So hopefully she'll be ready to rock and roll and take on the duties, but we'll all be there to support her and help her out if she can. I mean, if she has any trouble, I should say. We did get a request for, a sale of liquor before noon, from Shagbark Country Club, so that's gonna be on the county board agenda. I received the check from the country club, so we will be having an approval of that. And then, Monday, it was brought to my attention that there were 4 drainage districts that were inadvertently extended on the tax bill this year that were not supposed to be extended. So we have about 1,800 parcels that we have to send out a corrected bill for. What will need to happen, DevNet will be doing certificates of error on those parcels, and then we'll be sending out the new tax bill. It will be the first installment will be due 30 days from the date it was sent. And then the second installment would be due September 18th, like what all of the other tax bills are. It just is the drainage, and it is on, the Eastburn Drainage Districts number 1 and 3, Union Drainage District number 2, and then Mud Creek Special Assessment Drainage District, which that's the really big one. Eastburn 1 has 72 parcels, Eastburn 3 has 29. The Union of Danforth and Ashcombe has 9 parcels, and then the Mud Creek has 1,682, so that's what the big one is. The reason why it happened was an issue by my tax extension clerk. When we proof the drainage and when we enter all of it, if you know how drainage works, they have to have a roll. It's set for the life of the district unless they go to court to get it to change. And then they levy a percentage of that roll. So they either do 100%, 50%, whatever they wanna do. So anyway, when we proof the districts, or when we enter them, all 4 of those districts were entered as zeros. When we proof the districts, we deselect those districts that are not going to be levied, so we can see the amount of money that's going to be collected. The problem is, when we go into extend, if we deselect those districts, it charges the entire amount of the roll. And that is where the problem was at. Deselecting the districts, it would make you think that you're not extending those, but it forces an entire extension. So, I received a quote from DevNet to make the correction. It's going to be, their fee is going to be $5,000. That's going to be able to be paid out of my budget because of the salary that has not been paid. So it's not going to be outside of my budget to be able to get this corrected, thankfully. So, that's where we're at.
Sheriff?
We reached out to Michael O'Haron. He brought the point blank ballistic vests up to the office last week for us to look at as an option. Telephone upgrade for the jail and the sheriff's office. We're still waiting on AT&T to port the numbers. All the equipment's ready to go. Body scanner, I got an email on the 1st. They'll be shipping the unit out and hopefully installing it the week of August 21st. We're gonna start training on the new Central Square CAD jail report writing program on the 14th. And it's gonna be fired up on the 5th of September. So that's been a lot of work between Eric and myself and other people in our office. Met with Motorola on July 13th. Received their proposal for the Starcom radios. Provided that information to the budget committee. I'm working with them to try to shape down those numbers. They are providing us a 7 to 10 year financing option, so we don't have any hard numbers right now. We're also looking at the option to go digital on the sheriff's main channel, researching the cost on that. ETSB, I know they met last night, I don't know what they decided, but thought would be to add the digital repeaters on the fire towers in the 4 corners, and that would provide us with a robust system. CPC inmate phone tablet system has been initiated as of last week. That started, so we're working through the bugs and the kinks on that. Working on a September 4th seat in the police academy in Champaign. Readjusting the items that we order for the jail and for prisoner expenses to save money. There's certain things that we order from one company, could be gloves. We're able to get those a little bit cheaper other places. We did switch our fuel cards to one BP corporate card, which gives us a percentage off per gallon once we use BP. And we can use that one card at any station. So that's a lot easier. Instead of our officers losing 3 cards, they can just lose 1. So we do have one more vehicle that was budgeted for that's at Drolley's. Jake called the other day and said that all the ones that he ordered, which is a total of 3, showed up at Drolley's the other day. So I know we're not budgeted for the other 2 vehicles, but they're sitting at Drolley's. They said that they could hold those for 90 days before they have to pay GM, but that's not gonna get us into December 1st. So he said if we can't take them, he can sell them to somebody else, but they were ordered, and we ended up buying the one vehicle from Miles Chevrolet, so that's one of the extra ones that he's got. So I guess it'd be up to you guys if we just let them go, or since they're there, if we're able to get those out of the public safety.
What are we talking about, $100,000?
They're around 45.9 a piece, I believe. We've got the equipment for all three of them, so.
You said 2 of them are in the budget for that, or?
3.
Won't,
Well, you requested 3.
I did,
Requested 3.
and I've got money for 1, still in,
That
was allocated.
We've been waiting on them to come in.
So we're really talking about 2.
Then that would come off of next year's.
Right.
So, I don't know what the prices of cars are going, I assume they're just going up.
I'd say probably here, normally by next month's meeting, I mean, if we can wait that long, normally by September, the budgets, we're willing somewhat. We're
Hopefully, yeah.
we're pretty close to having it all nailed out, it seems like in September is generally, so maybe next month we'll get it figured out, but it seemed like, I just guess we just pulled into this year would be my guess, but let's get through the rest of this budget stuff and hopefully by next month we'll say for sure if they can hold off that long.
Definitely, thank you.
Did you look into how many, you talked about prison population with the September 18th date and all that kind of stuff briefly,
As far as how many we're gonna be losing,
how many would you lose like today or whatever?
I didn't really look at, the specific charges. I know we'd probably be, our population was 18 yesterday, so we may be down to 8. So, all right, yeah,
Okay,
rough numbers.
yeah. Either, Eric's, I know we got budget stuff, you got anything else that's,
Besides budget stuff, which we'll talk about when we get to their agenda, nothing too much with the health department, it's a new grant year. Our grants typically follow the state fiscal year, so getting all of our previous grants wrapped up, starting the new ones, so on and so forth.
Most of mine is gonna be on the budget, but Tuesday last week, we suffered another fiber cut. And we don't have backup internet again. This needs to get done, this needs to get tied up, this needs to get cinched ASAP. We've crippled our offices for now the 4th time, technically the 3rd time, because we couldn't prevent the first one in the first place. Unfortunately, IDOT was mowing in the same area, but really and truly it was not IDOT's problem, or because at the end of the day, AT&T still didn't bury the pedestals, so they got mowed over, and that was the experience of our outage. But again, we've been kicking this can down the road for more than a year. We need to do something.
which companies weren't down or which one?
The Nexus wasn't down at my house. That's the one that we've asked Bernie to look into. There's an issue of what all, for security reasons, what all can be converted and then how they're gonna go about doing it and this and that, so.
Well, I think he's supposed to be here next month, just make sure he has that on his or list of things to talk about if we could.
And that's the only part of the report that I have for the finance committee until we get into budget.
Okay. I guess Jill and or John, you guys have anything else, department head stuff?
No, all I have is that I spoke with Hope again yesterday about some of the questions that were brought up, and she is gonna be working on those. The AFR got signed and sent in, which is the annual financial report on the 27th of July. And I should be getting some financial reports on our regular audit here pretty shortly. I put her tentatively on for September's finance meeting to present, so.
Okay, John, you got anything you wanna add?
I'll come up and do business.
All right, then budget hearings, we had Mr. Devine was first on our list. And his would, on our books will be page 11.
For him?
Yes. That's the general fund state's attorney one.
Yeah, most of my budget is salaries. I've tried to pare back office expense. I've basically kept the same. Publications on the 500. I know the 2023 budget was 1,000, but we no longer use Times Republic for publications. And when we publish things, it's usually for juvenile abuse and neglect cases where we have to publish against moms and dads who are not a part of their kids' life, so we have, and we don't know where they are, so we have to publish on them. But we use the Gilman Star, which is a much less expensive publication. It's a fraction of what the Times Republic was charging us. So that's why I've reduced the publications budget down to 500, because I don't see where we would exceed that. Education and dues expense kept at 10,000. That's just it's generally, it's kind of all over the place sometimes, but I don't see that exceeding 10,000 this coming year. And criminal prosecution traditionally has been 10,000, but I also don't see anything in this next year. I mean, we had a murder trial back in March that got completed. I don't see any expensive prosecutions coming up this next year. And if somebody did get arrested for a high heater crime, I mean, these things drag out to the point where it's not going to affect my budget really until the year after, you know, so that's the sum and substance. Is asking for raises, of course, like everybody else, and I know you'll take that into consideration across the board as to what that's going to be. So,
And I think most of the other ones that we had you're responsible for, the teen court fund and drug addiction, I mean, those are pretty uneventful accounts.
they are. I mean, they get funded.
You have to go through those unless you got something you want to point out.
Nope, there's nothing special out of that.
I think the only other thing, Jim, was we were talking with people, our page 7, which is the revenue items. I've slept since our last meeting, but we were talking, there was some. As far as fees and stuff or collecting from criminal cases or whatever, there were some things you started charging more money or you could charge.
Yeah, there's something there that
I should
you
take
weren't
that
charging
notes.
very much for, or weren't charging, and she maybe mentioned something to you, and then.
I have not talked to Lisa about that, so.
That was what we were talking about the other day, about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can pursue that with Lisa as far as revenue goes, so. Yeah, we talked about it, I guess, in general, but specifically, we'll just take a pencil, sharpen our pencil and see what we can get.
That would probably be best to talk with her.
Okay.
I don't remember the specific example she gave us, but anyway, she had a couple things.
Okay.
It seemed like that she thought, well, we might be able to do something here. It's my recollection anyways, but.
Yeah, I'll talk to Lisa and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ginger with the U of I co-op extension.
That was on your book I gave that to you this morning.
Yeah, just a partial page.
Yeah, it's one page.
It's just one page because it hasn't, it's not changing. It's a levy, so, we're staying the same. Our salary, essentially your money is, used for salaries. I mean, that's a little bit of rent, but essentially salaries, so, we get funding from lots of different sources, so, the actual levy is used primarily for local, for our local, salaries, that's what it pays for, so. Our match that we get from the state, which is linked to our local funds, it's been pretty steady right now, so, even though our salaries have gone up a little bit, we've been able to absorb that. So I'm not asking for any change again, so, things are pretty status quo for me.
Very good.
Questions?
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Okay, the only other thing is just to make sure, I know some people kind of forget this, but we actually run on a different fiscal year. So we're essentially, the board's actually 6 months behind, so, which is, it works out, but,
Sure.
yeah, it looks like you might be, ahead, but you actually approved part of my budget from last year, and then this one is for actually part of next. So that's kind of the way it works for us, but.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Got two newspapers. Mr. Stacy, 911 ETSB. Nope, oh, sorry,
Come on.
too many Erics.
Which Eric?
I think it's
I said Stacy, wrong person. Wrong area. Okay, health department.
all right. The Iroquois County Board of Health has not approved the budget yet, so you don't have it in front of you.
Okay.
They're gonna have a meeting Monday night, and at that meeting, they're going to vote. So, I did not wanna bring that forward to you guys yet, my board hasn't passed it yet. So I apologize for that. However, I do wanna give you a heads up on some things, let you know where we are at. So, looking at our budget, one of the things that was expected is we're gonna have a significant decrease in revenue just because a lot of the COVID-19 grants have gone away. Last year, that was the case, and this year it's even more so because there were some COVID-19 grants such as Response, Crisis, and a mass vaccination grant that we had during this fiscal year. Those have gone away as of June 30th. We only have one COVID-19 grant still around that goes to the end of December. So, expected decrease in our grant revenue, which is all right. We had a couple increases as well. We got a little bit more available to us in our comprehensive health protection grant. That was through state legislature. Last year, the previous administrator talked about that potentially happening, and thankfully it did. But that'll be immediately absorbed into our salaries. So, I expect the Board of Health is once again going to request $316,000 in tax levy. That is what we have typically requested over the past few years, the exception of last year, which was the whole thing that we don't need to get into. But that was our request for this year. We anticipate requesting the very same. Received an email from Mr. McTaggart, and I believe other.
Copied everyone here.
Oh, okay. So, email concerning basically coming to an agreement between the Board of Health and the county board for the health department to start contributing towards audit costs. Is that the ask? Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna take this before the board, which I was at that meeting, and I do remember that. And the previous Board of Health president did acknowledge that if we are increasing costs to the county's auditing process, then we should contribute. I do recall that being said. So I'll bring it before the Board of Health on Monday night. As part of hey, we're approving the budget now, we talked about this last year, but I was hoping for some specific lines of thought from this committee about how much and what exact costs are you hoping for the health department to contribute to here?
Jill can probably at least on part of that talk, because we briefly spoke before the meeting, but she's talked with Hope Wheeler, who's the partner at Clifton Larson Allen, our auditors, and that she was working on trying to quantify or separate things out on how much the health department, what that would look like.
Mhm.
Personally, maybe Jill has an idea, but I have no idea what that looks
I
like.
don't as of this moment, just because I'm kind of waiting on Hope. Like I said, I just spoke to her, and it'll take her a bit to go back and have her billing department separate some of those hours out, but until I have that, I don't really have anything concrete to give you.
So you asked for some help
And,
on our staff.
and then the other part was that I said,
Yep, you asked for
Jill's
help.
office and stuff had been spending quite a bit of time, I focus on different things in different years or whatever.
In your email, you referenced HR issues and investigation into the health department, correct?
So last year when I was there, the meeting you're referencing, I know Jill's office had a lot of time at that time dealing with the investigation or whatever you wanna call it and all those kind of things. And that was one of the things I brought up at that meeting as well, in addition to the audit fees, which again, those were particularly higher, just to be noted, because of the COVID grant, or the single audit that was triggered by and large by the COVID grants. As well as ARPA, which I guess is COVID money as well, but so all that obviously changes year to year and it's come down quite a bit, I mean, as far as how much that was, but I know this year as an example, and I referenced it in the email, there's been a lot of time spent on getting the grants reconciled and those different kinds of things that has impacted the timing of the audit getting completed or whatever, so that's why we wanted to have it quantified out. Jill, have you had a chance to look at, I guess, I don't know how many hours you guys have spent working on grants and those things?
No, I haven't, I'm still trying to figure out what's the best way to go about trying to figure that out, because, you know, obviously we don't sit there and keep track of what we're working on right now, so. But I will work on that some more, and I have some other stuff that I need to get done prior to that, so. I will work on it and get something together and get to everybody an email.
That'd be great. And if now, this is Ms. Johnson's busiest time of the year, but having that information by Monday evening gives me an opportunity to go to the Board of Health with tangibles.
Yeah.
If I don't have tangibles, then it's gonna be a very difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Let's see, there's something else on the middle.
I will.
That would be appreciated. You mentioned the single audit triggered by ICPHD's additional grants, but you also mentioned that the county's ARPA money also triggered the single audit.
Sure.
So during the current fiscal year, was a single audit triggered by just the health department or the health department and the county's
It
additional
originally
grants?
it triggered with the health department's COVID grants. Now, this year is the first year that the ARPA grant is being, focused on. Single audit will include a number of federal grants, so, ARPA's the big one this year, and this is the first year. It's been the main focus of the single audit. The past 2 years we've had to do a single audit, it's been the tracing grant.
Okay.
So there are still health department grants, like your community response. FEP has also included that, crisis, those are included as well in the single audit because they are somewhat federally funded.
Yes.
Did you make some comment that those grants allow to spend
They
money
do, and that
from the
was,
grant
that's another
on
reason
the
why I've been
incremental
talking.
audit cost that is
Talking
incurred?
to Hope is through, and maybe you can look into it, Eric, but through some of your grants, you should be able to, if we can, get the auditor going, and I told Hope especially going forward, to fill out your health department time separately, then you can also use, you have to read into each specific grant, but use grant money to pay for an audit. We can also use a portion of ARPA funds through administrative costs to pay for the single audit as well, so, that is something I'm working on this year as well.
Cool. So to be clear, last year, single audit was because of the health department's additional
Contact
funds.
tracing was the big
Yeah.
focus for last year's single
But
audit.
this year, it's the health department and the county board, correct?
This year it is, it is
I understand.
partially, without it having it in front of me, this in my office, but there was 6, I believe, health department grants and then ARPA,
I understand.
so.
And it's worth noting in the same sense, while I said that the health department did not contribute to audit costs last year, even though the health department did trigger single audit requirements last year, so I'll mention that.
Well, and in the past, there's been a transfer from the health department for building utilities and IT services.
Correct.
Nothing specifically for administrative services, and something we had talked about is to give you an idea, like highway, they transfer over a certain amount each year for administrative services. So we can look at that too, so.
Problem
I'll
is-
get something together and we
it
can
is a-
email out whatever you guys want.
It's gonna have to almost be an estimate because it's just hard to.
Yeah. Get you a concrete.
Why the
number.
utilities and IT stuff's $10,000.
It's
Maybe
been
that's
like that.
based in something, but I think it's just,
Yeah.
probably it's been long forgotten where that number came from, but
I believe the utilities was a rough estimate calculated on the square footage that we occupied, and we increased that when our space increased. I believe. I was not in my administrative
I'm sure
role at
there
the
was
time,
some logic behind it.
but I was within proximity.
In management, they go through when we're doing the rents and stuff, and they
Sure.
figure out all our costs
Okay.
per square foot, so that's all, that's where those numbers come from.
Yeah,
Okay, well, hopefully,
I'll get
if
something
you can try and
together.
get something together on the administrative side by Monday and then push hope to hopefully have
I will
some kind of an idea on the audit.
move it up on my list.
Thank you.
If a member of the finance committee, or multiple members, or whomever, would like to be at the Board of Health meeting on Monday night, we'll be here at 6 p.m. And that'd be great. I'll be bringing this email and my notes from our discussion today to the Board of Health is ultimately up to them. But that's when we'll be hopefully approving our health department budget. Any specific requests to the health department for contribution to county funds would be appreciated by that time.
Okay, you said 6 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay.
And unless anybody has any questions for me, once the Board of Health does approve their budget, that will obviously be given to the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
And I, since they'll probably approve that Monday night, it'll be next month.
Okay.
At your next Finance Committee meeting.
Sounds good, thank you.
I think the hospital found out is a clock for an audit triggered by income. Keep you on the radar.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, Mr. Raymond.
Alright. ETSB did meet last night. That was their first opportunity to review their budget. So they're right now nowhere near completion. But what we have, I'm gonna take you through the revenues first. So interest, we seem to be doing pretty well on interest. I usually keep it at 1,000. Only reason I'm doing it again this year is because I don't know what our federal government's going to do. They've been pushing the interest up as the year has gone on. Positive thing for money in the bank, hallelujah. $520,000 is our wireless contribution. This is the ETS Act, so on your cell phone bills, you'll see $1.50 per cell phone that's already there. That's what it translates out to it for us. We've been pushing the statewide advisory board specifically to increase that number. Did not get any success in that direction, so here we are. The statewide advisory board really hasn't met since April. And the last words that they said is maybe we could look at the veto session. If we're at this point in the year, they haven't met. I'm not holding my breath on reviewing anything to increase the surcharge by the veto session. If we're lucky, maybe at the beginning of the year. I have in miscellaneous, there's
Somebody
a,
telling me that,
sorry?
is this even realistic? I mean, somebody was just telling me, I feel like after our last budget hearing meeting, that they didn't think it was, I don't know if it was, Tom Bennett told somebody or one of those guys that this was highly, highly, highly unlikely that they would increase it, was the feeling, or?
That's the general overall consensus. Everybody doesn't want to increase taxes, but they don't want to face facts that people get paid more, costs of services and everything else is also increasing. So they're putting their blinders on in an inappropriate spot, but that's my little soapbox that I'm gonna get off on.
Well, I understand, I just wanted to be clear that this is probably not gonna happen, but.
Probably
Doesn't
not,
sound
and I
like,
wouldn't
but-
say hold your breath for it.
Right, okay, very good.
Miscellaneous, we've got a $4,000 in there. The only reason the miscellaneous of $4,000 is in there is because of our CAD jail RMS system that Sheriff talked about during his report. In case for some weird reason we had to pump some brakes on that, some money is gonna still be generated to come in because that's gonna kick off the next fiscal year of billing on it, so we may have to pay one if that were the case. That's probably gonna come off as long as we're successful with our go live at the beginning of September. So less $4,000. And you'll see in the grand scheme, that's not really gonna be a thing. My number for my salary, as we're getting into this, is still up for debate at this point. The ETSB will have an executive session next month to discuss my performance and any salary benefits and jumps, so they'll take care of that there. Because we're still in the middle of negotiations with the telecommunicator union, there is an assistant department head salary of $45,000 in there that is expected to be a salaried position. There's some caveats to that. So if for some reason all management is removed from the radio, we're probably not gonna go with the assistant department head because that was the plan, is to assist in alleviating some of that overtime. It's not gonna alleviate everything, but hey, something's better than nothing. Group insurance, liability insurance, anything that's benefit related is all doubled for the cost of a second employee. Office expense is gonna be at $15,000. You can see the note for text to 911. Text to 911 is part of Next Generation 911. It is something I have to do, period, end of story. So the money's gotta be in there somewhere for us to be able to move that along. Now, if it's gonna cost us traditionally more than $5,000, I don't think it's gonna cost that much. We've got a bid, there's a state bid, so hopefully there'll be some cost benefit there for us. Questions so far? Joint dispatch, that's a number you've already seen as of last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday when you were taking care of all of those numbers. So maintenance repair 120, that's gonna probably be about accurate based on projections. I'm not moving that around. And then purchase of equipment, you can see that $300,000. Now, when I say radio, that means radio console system. This is not going to improve or change anything of the quality of the radio system that we have in this county. It is simply to replace the console at 911. That is a 16 or 17-year-old console. The computers that are in it are working on Windows XP. Don't worry, they're not connected to the network, so they're not a security vulnerability. I say that because that's a genuine problem with a computer that has to run something that old. You've heard this from, several of you have probably already heard this from me, but there's also some complications with technology on the computers that are actually physically there. If anybody's familiar with it, it's basically the connections that are on the inside of the computer are not being used as much because they've since upgraded by leaps and bounds. So, nothing in contingency since we're outstripping what we're getting in the 520 based on this current budget. Leaves us negative 332, 208.65. So to talk to Sheriff briefly hit it during his digital radio system. Right now we're doing what's called a propagation study for microwave technology, and that's gonna be at multiple sites. I have no idea how much that's gonna cost. It really depends on if we need to put up towers or something else, and once we start putting up towers, that gets really expensive really quickly, especially depending on what height is. So in addition to the 300 in new equipment, this could really beef up our budget in a big hurry, and we only have so much in funds as well. So we're waiting on that. Well, this is in conjunction with both Casey Communication and Reagan Communications, which are vendors that we've been using, time out of mind. This is also an example of the reasons when I've been speaking with multiple groups, Finance Committee, County Board, City of Watseka, and as an example of why the ETSB cannot continually be putting in the largest share. Eventually, we have to buy equipment, and this equipment is not cheap. Phone system, we got that. We got a new phone system that was installed on July the 19th, which is the Next Generation phone system. It's already got grant money that was there that it's been applied for. We're just waiting on the check to come back, so hallelujah, that's a wash. minus a few things, but grand scheme, not a big deal. There is expected to be another grant next year for Next Generation 911. I don't know what they're planning on stuff for that, but I would expect anything that's gonna be in the direction of Next Gen will be applied for. We do have some GIS stuff that's already being paid for out of the actual budget. I expect that we'll be able to take those nice lovely invoices and put them towards that as well. So some of that will be a wash, but it's not big money by any stretch of the imagination. Questions, comments? More to come next month until we have more round numbers,
See what
it's
they-
kinda hard to go.
Yeah, see what your board thinks, but, okay. I
Thank you.
Yep. All right. I have to leave in 10 minutes, so Lyle might have to take over here if we don't get through this. Angel, Ida is the next on our.
Okay, I can pass.
Lyle doesn't wanna, there you go, switch seats.
Yeah. Make sure here. So since 2021, when I started, IDA has been working on numerous different projects. I've listed some here just to give a slight overview of some of the things that we focus in on. We've been working tightly with the Iroquois Area Regional Delivery System, which includes Watseka, Melfort, Iroquois West, Cissna Park, and Crescent City to bring employers together with also career technical education. We're also in the process of revamping our website, which we're going to include a Iroquois County job board, statistics for Iroquois County. We are going to be reaching out to, I believe that we've already discussed maybe the county, linking in with the county and working with the cities to link into their websites, which will be a great resource for anyone that's inquiring. All this time, we've been assisting the mayors, boards, businesses, residents, 501c3s, churches, libraries, pretty much every place that we potentially can to assist in various different ways. One of the biggest things that I think that I would like to say is that this year we connected with DCEO. We are a community navigator, which is a division underneath DCEO, underneath actually Champaign Regional Planning. We are a spoke, and we actually have been working with, we reached out to over 60 plus businesses for a grant program. We just heard this week that a division of those grants were awarded, and you'll see on there the Cissna Park Restaurant, and this is just rolling out. I'll have more information at the county board meeting. Cissna Park Restaurant, 15,000, the Depot and Crescent received 10, Casadores Tacos and Anarga received 30, and like I said, I'll have more updates on this, and you can see from the back listing all the different ones that actually applied. This is a lot more than applied in the past, and it's making a huge difference on the businesses here in Iroquois County. They're very, very thankful. We actually helped them one-on-one do the application. I've met with three different businesses this week to help them put their banking information in so they can receive the funds. And then we're still gonna be with them, holding hands to figure out where they can put that and how they can send their paperwork in for those grants. So let's go ahead and move to the budget request. In the past, you'll see 2021 and 2022, the county board has, and 2023 actually, showed sponsorship of $17,500. In 2022, we do have some reserves. We are a 501c6 organization, not a 501c3. So we work to encourage business assistance. And because we're a 501c6, we can't apply for a lot of the 501c grants. So the county was kind enough in 2022 to keep out of the red, we had to take reserves. And again, like the university, we are on a different fiscal year. We're June 1st to May 31st. So you'll see in 2022, it says a 40,000. We put 20,000 on our fiscal year in 2022 and 2023, okay? So that actually it's like that. And then also in 2023, to help us keep going this year, the county board actually advanced our request. And we are truly thankful that they did that because it's very important that we keep up doing what we're doing for area businesses. So you can see all the different expenses broke down. And I will say from 2021 to 2023, I'm attending more conferences throughout the state. And these are the large conferences to be able to find out the information that other economic groups are doing and bring it back here to Iroquois County. So you'll see that as the budget goes on, you know, there's more in mileage, more in conferences, even though our organization has really truly been blessed. A lot of the conferences, we can get scholarships to attend that, but, which is a wonderful thing. The big one that's coming up in 2023, I should say 2024, is the website marketing. That's going to be a big part of our budget coming through. And that will be a great resource, again, to have a job board specific for Iroquois County is phenomenal. And we're really looking forward to developing that. Sean, is there anything else I forgot?
No, I think you hit the highlights. Our revenue comes in the way of contributions from businesses. One of the strategic plan that we just got done formalized and will be approved at the next committee, AIDA board, will be our strategic plan going forward to grow the number of businesses. With that, obviously, is more contributions, more revenue. So going forward, we expect the ask to decrease over time with additional contribution, bringing on more businesses to AIDA.
Is there any other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom here? I saw him earlier. Don't see him now, so.
If we don't have any updates on the background check stuff, we're just gonna skip that.
Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about with the background check?
I did look into this CHIRP, which is through the circuit clerks and through the state. We have the option to do a background check, but some paperwork has got to be filled out. I sent that to, I think, Jill and Amanda the other day, and I think Julie as well. Basically, once we get this paperwork filled out, they would send us 2 separate ORIs, one for licensees and applications for new employees, and another ORI that would be used for liquor licensees, because that's got to be separated out. So it looks like that would be like a $24 fee, but one that we could collect from that person. They would go over to the jail, fingerprints would be done, or we could do a name, date of birth search, as I understand it. So, but the first step is getting that paperwork signed and sent to the state, and then get those ORI numbers. So that's just a way of tracking that. Like Iroquois County Sheriff's Office has an ORI number, the state's attorney probation's dispatch, Watseka PD, all the police departments have that. So through the state, that's how they track that.
What kind of information then can you get on a person with that?
This would be a full criminal history, FBI and state.
And you can, anybody that we need to think we have a cause to question can be run through the system.
Yeah, it would be for new employees, or like a a permit licensee, but the liquor licensee ones would be a separate thing.
So solicitor for the wind
And towers.
energy would qualify to be.
Correct. Great. Yep. So we'll just have to get that printed out, look at that. The lady did call me back, finally. I was hoping to get a call with Jill and Amanda and Julie, but she called me directly, so, and then sent me the information.
Okay, so we'll wait to hear from you next month.
Yep.
Okay. Do we know anything more on starting wages for county employees?
We had our first negotiations meeting with AFSCME, and they put in their request, and I have sent out to the negotiations committees, suggestions based off their requests and the conversations that were had after that meeting. Also posed an email out to the department heads that have AFSCME employees for any ideas or suggestions on what they would like to do. So it's still in the works. I did do some adjustments to the budget, and that's why I gave you all an updated cuts list, which you'll see here at the top. This includes everything we had talked about the last time, and I adjusted salaries to match what I have listed up at the corner. And then I also adjusted the preliminary amount page, which looks like this. And this does not include probation yet, because they are still working on their budget and also finalizing their contract as well. And we also still don't have solid numbers for telecommunicators, as their contract is still in process too. So it's in progress, but it's nothing real solid or finalized as of yet.
Well, I mean, we don't wanna rush into something and have to redo it again.
Right, and I think once, AFSCME continues and those conversations go on, then the starting wages will be pretty well set, so.
I think everybody knows that we want to increase and need to increase our starting wages. We just have to figure out where the money.
Broken claims, anybody got any questions on the claims? Approved? Second.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Alt? Ballard?
Yes.
Geiger?
Yes.
Watts?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to get the old business? Okay, well, we'll let John speak on old business. I'm old enough
Recently, we had gotten an application for revolving loan funds from Watsika Ford. And so I recalled or reformed our revolving loan committee. You can consider this, and the revolving loan committee consisted of using myself, Michael McTaggart, Joe Johnson, Kurt Albers, Jim Devine, Angel Crawford, and Kerry Bell from First Trust Bank. So we met and considered Mr. Bell from Watsika Ford considered his application. He was wanting a loan of about $500,000 at an interest rate, if I remember right, around 1%.
1%.
Whatever it was. Anyway, after we reviewed his financial information and so forth, we arrived at an agreement with him that we would loan him $450,000 at a fixed rate of 2.5% for a 10-year period. So I've gone over this again with and prepared the documents with the assistance from Kerry Bell and Jim Devine, and I'll be bringing this before the county board next Tuesday for final approval.
How many new employees is he promising?
He's talking about 16 new employees over a period of a couple of years. He also has plans to build another building to do more body work.
For detailing purposes and storage.
So
parts storage.
Or, the criteria for using those funds is to increase the business in the county, add more jobs, those kinds of things, so we felt like something I'd be qualified for, so. That's where we're at. Mr. Brown.
Well, you have to, after you approve everything, you get some money, you have to report back to us.
Well.
No, all he really has to, what he has to do is make his payments in accordance with the terms of the agreement.
Yeah, but does he have to say how many employees he hired during that time, or?
No, that's never been a requirement that
I
he
did.
has.
When I did it here.
Did you?
I had to report, yeah, I had to report in, and then we stopped it because, yeah.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because recently, our most recent loan was with T&D Metal, and we did not have a requirement with them that they had to report back. They were wanting to put a line in to produce gun safes over at the old big R building. And, I mean, they paid the loan off early, there was no issues there, but we did not have that requirement that they had to report back to us on their progress, so that was not included as a part of this agreement.
Probably something that should be included going forward, because otherwise anybody can come and say anything.
Did they offer any dialect on that? It's what? Did they offer them guaranteeing increase employees? No. I mean, their plans are stated pretty clearly, and basically, they're already, I don't know that they've already begun construction on these changes, but I know it's very imminent. I don't know the exact date of, I know he's intending to have everything completed by the first of the year, and so far as the expansion goes.
Where does this money come from?
Where does it come from? Our revolving loan fund.
Okay, is there a piece of paper in any of these that show the balance of that fund, or?
It's listed
Not
in the
there,
funds
but
that,
when you get your trial balance monthly from the treasurer's office, it's on the first page and it's Fund 427, it's
Okay.
titled revolving loan fund.
Okay,
And there was 520,000 when this first came about, available for funding out of there. And that's the only thing we can use it
and it's 2.5% for a 10-year term, you said?
yes.
Where did that rate come from?
Where did the rate come from? It was a rate that was discussed among the members of the committee and felt to be what would be appropriate for the situation, I guess.
I didn't know if there was any statutory, because I know if I wanted to loan you money, there's a state statute, they must be set the rate, that it has to be for a minimum. So I didn't know if anything like that was.
The revolving loan fund money originally was a program set up by the federal government. Monies were given to the states and then filtered down to the counties and so forth. Well, the feds decided that they wanted to abandon the program. So it was, all the money that was there was given to the discretion of the counties to use. And the city of Watsika has done the same thing. They have a revolving loan fund program that came under the same terms of the same program, so.
Can I say something?
In fact, when we did the T&D loan, there was a companion loan, the city loan to come amount similar to what we provided to them, so.
The original program that it came through was originally set up to increase employment. That's the basis of it, to help businesses increase employment. And that's pretty much the basic of the revolving loans. Raising.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was what it came through. That's why I mentioned the discussion on what that's what was designed to do. We should read it this time.
Yes.
I guess one reason that we accepted his word for it is because his expansion is including more service bays and so forth. So if you're gonna have facilities like that, you're obviously gonna have more people there to work in those facilities and so forth.
And he did say that he has a very huge business just for that. He's actually wants to expand on different things more. This is just, he already has the business. He knows it's there.
So this will be on the agenda at the board meeting on Tuesday for us to approve the loan, and if that's the case, then we'll sign these papers with him, we'll get his money and be on the way.
Okay, so that was gonna be my next question. There's nothing we need to do, it's gonna be done at the full board.
Right.
Okay.
We didn't get it on the agenda today, so, I mean, the only thing you'd be doing would be making a motion to approve it and then sending it to the board anyway, so we'll just have it on the agenda at the board meetings.
And the last time that this funding has been used was years ago?
No,
Okay, 2 years.
just a couple of years
Just a
ago,
couple
we
of
had
years
an
ago.
arrangement with T&D.
But again, it's just sitting there to, not being used. So it's good. Good business.
Anything else?
The only other thing I would add is that one of the reasons we agreed on the amount that we agreed upon was that we wanted to try and leave some money in the fund that, so we could accommodate if other people applied for funding, so.
Okay. Any other old business? Any new business? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Bowers? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.